View from the Gutters, episode 116. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss change, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 5402. But, View from the Gutters, episode 116. I'm Andrew Chard.
I'm Joe Preddy.
I'm Tobiah Panchin.
I'm Kaylee Fleeman.
And I'm Ked Reynolds.
A couple of brief announcements before we get started. First of all, as always, thank you to our Patreon episode sponsors, Brian May, Addison Appleby, and Tony Cortero.
Woo!
Thank you, guys.
And
thank you to all
the
of
gift
our
we have
patrons.
given you is that you don't have to hear what we were talking about right before this episode began.
And thank you to all of our listeners.
Yeah.
We love you.
And...
in a completely platonic, non-binding way.
No, I
very binding.
I'm straight up gonna wife you.
We're exclusive now.
But all
You
your
can't
other
get married to a podcast.
delete
Yes,
all
you
your
can.
other podcasts. We are now your only podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're not listening to us, I will call you and ask you where you are.
Why are you going out with that other podcast? I mean...
Till death do us part.
What are you doing with those earphones in?
What do you think?
What's going on over there? Who are you listening to?
Announcement number 2.
Who that?
Next long run episode.
Yes.
About Sandman.
Yes.
Is going to be coming out very soon.
Yeah.
And
next
remember-
couple weeks. So start
Yes.
reading. You have at least 10 volumes of Sandman and probably some of the supplemental stuff just for good measure.
Yeah, not Death or Lucifer, but I think there's a few one-shots of...
It's all... everything's collected in the trades.
You
Yeah.
can read Death
Yeah.
if you want.
Oh, no, nobody's going to stop you.
Yeah.
It's just not required, no matter how huffy Kaylee gets.
They're just so good.
I mean, it's kind of up to Cade. No, I'm... yeah, so the main series specifically, but I'm sure we'll reference some of the side stuff. So
Oh,
I'll recommend
sure,
that.
absolutely.
Lucifer,
And we're
probably
talking-
not so much. Cause...
We're talking about the Marvel character Sandman,
Yeah.
the Spider-Man
Yep.
villain.
Yes.
Not even
The
slightly.
10-volume miniseries.
No, it's Wesley Dodds.
It is Wesley Dodds.
And not
That's-
the good one, the New 52 Wesley Dodds.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's like
I don't even want
he's
that.
like a government agent. It's
Sure
like
he is.
they're like it's like a task force of Sandmans.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm pretty sure
good.
it was in Earth 2. I'm pretty sure that's the one.
Well, that's okay, because Earth 2 got blowed up.
No, it's still around. I mean, they all got blowed up thanks to Convergence. so-
Right, is what I'm saying.
But
I saw it happen.
not only is Earth 2 New 52 in there, but Earth 2 Pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths is in there. Did
Really?
you want to read about characters
Oh,
from 30
God.
years ago? No. In fact, no one did.
It's amazing
So,
how that works.
Thank
right?
you, 65-year-old men writing for DC.
We're going to take DC in an exciting new direction, telling stories about characters that died a long time ago.
It's sad. Mannix is 34. I'm 28, and we're like Ultra Humanite, and then we're like trying to remember what happened to the Ultra Humanite, and then we realized all of this happened before we were born. There's literally no reason for us to know this information.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating.
Crisis on Infinite Earths happened before you were born.
Before I was born, yeah.
Yeah.
Not before I was born.
Not before Mannix was born, but
Nor
the
I.
Ultra Humanite like dying to Infinity Inc. characters that no one fucking gives a shit about. That all happened before both of us were born, I think.
But Earth 2 Robin is married to Helena Wayne.
Who got fridged this week?
Really?
Yeah,
God damn it.
yeah.
Whoa.
We had
She was my
two.
favorite.
We had 2 fridgings this week. Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. Did you? You know what? It's really sad. Is actually they brought back Lois Lane, Power Woman, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
From the crisis, from the Injustice gang, Earth 3
Right.
pre-crisis. And I was like, how cool would it be to actually have Lois Lane as a supervillain with Superman's powers running around the DCU right now?
That'd actually
Like, that's
be super
actually a
awesome.
really cool idea. Well, while the dome was up and she didn't have her powers, they electric chaired her.
Wow.
So,
Cool story.
we can't have nice things. There's one girl in that book, they killed her, so now it's all men.
Like it should be.
Yeah. Good job, DC. Really winning me over with this.
Thanks, Daddy
shit.
Didio.
It astounds me how they can make me angry even when I'm not reading.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been a hoot. Convergence. Watch Event Parking on Gamma Bomb to watch me fucking lose my shit every week.
Yes, please do that.
However, this week we will be losing our shit about a book recommended to us by Brian May, one of our patrons, called Change.
Yes, written by Alice Cott, drawn by Morgan Jeske. Not sure. Colored by Sloan Leong, and lettered by Ed Brisson.
So before we start, I did want to tell a story about this book, which is I forgot that I had read this because I read this during my 52 weeks of Image, like pre-reading, to determine what stuff I was going to pitch. And I ended up pitching the other book that Alex Cott has written, which is Zero for Image, which is a really good spy story. And he's also writing The Surface right now. So there's kind of a reason I skipped the
I started reading The Surface.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I really like his other stuff.
I'm interested in it.
Yeah. Not that I didn't like this, but I will say it is a tougher sell.
I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here and say that I did not like this.
Yeah.
And with all due apologies to Brian, who pitched it for us.
Well, it's not like Brian wrote it. I mean, it's not his fault.
Yeah, you guys have hated stuff I pitched.
All right, well, let me...
You don't apologize to me.
Well,
No, in fact, we blame you for it weekly.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it, Cade.
when it comes to you guys, like, we're all friends here.
Yeah.
We hang out, we talk, we give each other shit. And,
Yeah.
like, I don't have any problem saying to Joe, I think the book that you pitched was garbage.
Right.
When it's a listener, somebody that I don't know very well, Joe, you owe me $1 because your phone went off during the podcast.
Ooh, twice.
Nah, I think that was the same one.
Like, I feel like I have a little bit of an obligation to at least be polite about my distaste for something. But I gotta say, this was a really hard read for me. I really did not like this.
I didn't like it either, and I voted for it.
I kind of think that's an interesting point you bring up, first of all, just about feeling as though you should be, I don't know, politically correct or polite in the way that you criticize a book that's been pitched to us. Because, I mean, I feel like it's all kind of the same. And, I mean, like, the writer wrote it, you're either going to dig it or you're not. And while in some cases we will outright criticize an author for bad work, in this case specifically for me, it feels more like they wrote a story they really wanted to tell, and it wasn't necessarily a story I really wanted to read, because I didn't find there to be anything like inherently bad about it.
See, I kind of had the opposite reaction, and I'm going to compare it to Black Sad, which is a book that you and I got into a very tense argument about.
And not only you and I, but you and many other people we know have gotten into heated arguments about.
I have gotten a lot of crap, but
yeah,
I look at Black Sad and I go, okay, this is a book that is incredibly artfully done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's beautifully composed. Mm-hmm. It's very well put together. It has an interesting and engaging story that I didn't care for.
Right.
It didn't particularly interest me. I'm not the biggest fan of noir stuff. I found the anthropomorphs a little off-putting. Mm-hmm. That is an entirely separate conversation.
Right.
This book, like, I just found aggravatingly bad. I read it, and I cannot honestly tell you a single thing that happened in that story other than there was a rapper and a screenwriter and cultists and an alligator and maybe an astronaut. Really not sure.
I mean, it is by no stretch of the imagination. This is a surreal comic.
Oh, yeah.
This is surreal storytelling at the height of surreal storytelling.
I found it entirely inscrutable.
In which objects sometimes are placeholders for ideas. Characters are sometimes placeholders for ideas. And not necessarily actual people in the story. Like, this is in a long tradition of not only surreal comics, but also surreal storytelling, both in novel form and in film form. And I'm sure Joe can talk a bit about surreal film, but surreal novels are something that I've kind of read a lot of and find it's less about finding out what happened and more about experiencing what happened. And so while you can read stuff like Italo Calvino and be like, okay, in this scene, he's definitely doing this specific action with that specific person. But in the next scene, there's no reference to those things that have happened. So did they happen, or was it all like a metaphor for this thing, or is it just supposed to get you in the mindset? Like sometimes I feel like scenes in surrealist novels, and in this book particularly as well, they're not about events happening linearly, but they're about getting you into the space in which the next scene will take place.
Okay, so I wanted to put my thoughts out there because I did not like this book, but for a different reason than Tobiah. For me, I could see there was stuff going on, but I didn't care enough I did not put in the time that I felt it would require to understand it. And so I think that means that it's more of my own fault that I didn't get it than the writers.
Well, I think the problem with this, I don't want to say problem, but when dealing with surrealism, one of the obstacles is the fact that you're getting somebody's vision, and I get put 10 points on me on the pretension board for saying vision. The purpose of surrealism is to keep you off balance. It's supposed to be inscrutable because you're supposed to dig through it to figure out something for yourself. You're not necessarily. I think there's a lot of media, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything. There's a lot of media that kind of takes you by the hand and leads you through it. And it's like, look at this. This is important. This person is going to do this. And that's fine.
It's linear storytelling.
Yeah.
It's 90% of the way we consume storytelling.
Absolutely. I went and saw Ex Machina with Brant on last Friday. And at one point we turned to each other and we were like, I wonder if this. And he's like, yeah, I'm thinking this too. And then 5 minutes later in the movie, there was specifically a scene that dealt with the thing that we had just been positing. And that's like, okay, we're following along. That was something we were supposed to be thinking. The director clearly wanted us to be thinking along those lines.
And some of that quote-unquote hand-holding is meant to get your brain into the mindset of, now these characters have had a very specific conversation about fathers. I wonder if that's going to play a role later in the film. This book does the same, just in a less linear way.
Well, yeah, and I think the thing is that because, I actually found myself really enjoying this book, and this is also probably going to get me points on the pretension board, not necessarily for its content, but because it represents what I love about art of this nature, which is that it gives a voice to something that would normally be inscrutable. Like writing this down as a script or as a novel would take incredible skill, and it would be incredibly difficult to get the exact visuals you wanted to get that would convey what.
I might even say impossible.
Yeah, I would say close to it. There's films like that as well, like.
There's so many films that could exist only as films and
absolutely.
Not as novels and not as comics.
When you look at Fellini did shit with surrealism that you had to see, you had to experience.
Calvino's the same way for novels. I feel like this is the comic book that couldn't exist in any other form but a comic book. Yeah. And for that in and of itself, I think it succeeds as a surreal comic. Now, whether or not the tone, the mood, the art, the message, the feeling, whether or not any of that was conveyed to you, I think, that is obviously the author's job, but it's also just that's going to depend on whether you enjoyed it or not. Because there's certain moments in the book that I find really appealing. There's also a lot of stuff in here that I read and went I'm not buying that, or it's just not hitting me at the right level. I need that to be a little bit higher magnitude or a little bit, lower magnitude. It's about balance in a surreal book.
Yeah, and I think where normally we clash on things we'll clash on things that I think are a little bit more easy to define. So we'll be like, oh, I didn't like the way he did this, or
Right.
I didn't like the art here, or I didn't like the way the story was conveyed. Like, and those things I think are a little bit more concrete because we can, you can say, like when we were talking about Superman Unchained, and we're
Right.
talking about these kind of things that needed to be there that weren't there, and how like this kind of something, this feeling of something missing. With this, it's just like this is either going to be something that intrigues you, that tickles something in your brain that makes you want to get into it, or something you're going to be like, I don't fucking know what's going on and I don't care. And that's just the nature of this kind of...
I mean, that's just how surrealists work.
Yeah, and I don't think that's just a thing. It's the same thing. It's like...
It's video games, too.
Yeah.
Stuff like the Stanley Parable, like...
Yeah,
you're either going to
yeah.
love it or you... They're so polarizing, surreal works, that when someone tells me they don't like a surreal work, I'm never surprised.
Yeah, you really have to get into it because it's a very personal thing because you end up putting so much of yourself into it.
Well, I get what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. But I think that there's a question of reward there. What do you get from teasing that out?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that Brant hit the nail on the head last week when we were talking about Superman Unchained in terms of there's a turd here in front of me, and maybe that turd's got some diamonds in it, and maybe if I pick it apart, I'll find those diamonds, but do I really want to go digging for that? Well, and I'm not saying that this is a turd per
right,
se.
no, I know.
But what I'm saying is, like, with something like this that is on the surface so inscrutable, is it worth my time as a reader to dig into it and go, what's here, and tease it apart and figure out what the metaphors are and what it's trying to say? Is it even trying to say anything, or is it making noise simply for the beauty of making noise?
And I think those are all fantastic arguments in the world of art that people make
absolutely.
the time about all different natures of surrealist work. And I don't think there's anything wrong with whatever you get out of it. So as much as it's like, say instead of using the piles of turds and diamonds metaphor, you could use like a needles and haystacks, because it's like it's still uncomfortable to dig through the hay. But like
it sucks.
there's stuff in there, and how far you dig in is going to reward you in a specific way. And sometimes it's like you don't know how many needles you're going to dig out of that haystack. You could move through all the hay and only find 2, and is it worth it? Maybe not for you, maybe for somebody else. Like it's all going to be different.
Use a metal detector or a magnet.
They're ivory. They're ivory.
I'm from Vermont. I've had to do this.
They're ivory needles for sewing, because they're
fuck your
ancient. Kane.
magnets.
They're not metal. Duh. You don't think I wouldn't have thought of that? No. And I think that as a metaphor, it's just like, sometimes you are gonna get stuff out for digging in. Sometimes you don't have to dig very hard to get stuff out. I did a very cursory reading of this again today because I had read it once before, and I noticed stuff that I hadn't read before. I don't feel like I'm not taking notes. I don't have a Matthew McConaughey True Detective pinup board with red string going to every new.
I was hoping that you were going to say Matthew McConaughey pinup notebook.
Oh, I definitely have that.
Matthew McConaughey on the cover.
I have many of those.
Good.
I'll show you after the
worried.
show. But I don't have like a detective board. They do it in what's the one where he gets out of the Question does it. What's the one where he gets out of prison? Life? This is the guy from Band of Brothers.
They do it a lot.
Yeah, like it's a trope.
It's pretty common.
It's definitely a trope.
Whatever.
Like,
I mean, like it's
here question mark.
I
don't have
it
like
in the Daredevil Netflix series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that. I don't feel like I dug into this. I didn't write a 250-page thesis about this, but I got some stuff out of it. I read it twice and over a year apart, and I feel like there was stuff in there. I mean, like I totally understand your metaphor of like, do you want to really dig in and get to the deep gold? Like I didn't, but I still feel like I got some stuff out of there.
More than a question of just how much do you want to dig into it is how much is there actually there?
I don't
because
know.
I know that there are surreal artists who make something like they'll make a picture that is just an abstraction of colors,
right?
And they're just like, there's no message here. I just want you to look at these colors because I think they look good together. I want you to experience that and maybe feel something like what I felt when I did it. And I feel like that's okay up to a point, but from a personal perspective, I feel like art should have a message. It should be trying to say something, even if that message is buried.
It's the difference between art for are you making a product or are you making something that exists? Because art for art's sake isn't about you. It's about the artist. Like, this is something they had to get out of their head. Yeah. And then the fact that you see it completes the work, but it doesn't mean anything to the artist. Because if I paint a painting and put it on display, I honestly could give, I don't fucking care. That was a painting I had to get out of my head, and it goes onto the canvas, and that's where it lives. And now it's not in my head anymore, and I can now work on new stuff.
And
I don't agree with that.
But that's how art works.
But the thing is,
that's how some artists work, and I say I don't care for that.
The purpose
but it's not about you. It's about the artist.
But I want it to be about me.
But it's not, and that's the way the universe works. It'll never be about you. That's just life.
There are some artists, though, that do make the art for the consumer.
Sure.
I'm not saying that they should necessarily make it for the consumer going, I'm going to make this because I think people will appreciate it.
Okay, no.
You should make something that you want to make, but it should mean something to somebody other than you.
Art
why?
is an incredibly personal...
Because then it has a purpose.
Well, it has a purpose to you, though.
The thing is that it's not about...
then you make that piece of art, and then you lock it in a closet and never show it to anybody.
No, but the art isn't completed until someone else sees it.
Right, but if it doesn't mean anything to them, then there's no point in them looking at it.
No, their point was for someone else to experience it.
But that's
but no message has been conveyed.
Doesn't matter. They experienced it. It's like hearing a piece of music.
The purpose of art is to evoke feeling. All right?
Yeah.
It doesn't... you, to buy a pension, me, Joseph Preddy, who fucking cares? There's a ton of art out there that I think is fucking ridiculous, self-serving, masturbatory bullshit. But that doesn't mean anything. Because one person will look at that and they will feel something about it. And that makes that art... Art evokes emotion. Just because it doesn't evoke it for you, who gives a fuck?
No, but that's what I'm saying is that it should evoke emotion. It should evoke.
But how could it not?
It evokes emotion.
How could it not?
The thing is that
easily.
Because look, you look at that painting in Daredevil, the Kingpin's painting, right? It's a white painting, and you see nothing.
White rabbit and snow.
Is it a waste?
No.
Why?
Because it means something to the Kingpin.
But you don't know that because you've never met that man.
But he says it.
No. I'm just saying, like, if you had never met... Because there's someone out there that this book means a fuck ton to.
Absolutely. Well,
but you've never met them, so who are you to decide whether the art was successful or not?
But then Chard...
The fact that it's out in the universe means that at some point, it will be successful, by your definition.
Okay, but that's not what I'm saying.
Isn't it, though?
I feel like you're losing what I'm trying to communicate. And if I haven't put that across effectively, I'm sorry.
You are trying to communicate something to me that I fundamentally 150 billion% disagree with.
That's
because
not a
I
real
think
thing.
Okay,
I think that's impossible to say. You want art to have meaning for all people?
Let me put it to you this way.
Okay.
Let's say that I compose a painting.
Right.
I'm like, this painting is about me feeling sad, and I felt really sad when I was making it, and I wanted to convey my sadness.
That's great.
And you look at it and you feel happy, and Joe looks at it and he feels angry, and Cade looks at it and he feels hungry.
Right.
Like, I don't feel like that painting is successful because it's not conveying
the
message that I was trying to convey.
That's not. But we've always said that it's not about artist's intent. It's about what someone gleans from the work.
It's the collaboration of those two things in concert.
Is it, though?
It is both artist and audience working together.
But what happens when
to bridge the gulf between humans?
Herman Melville writes a book about the whaling industry, and we all see it as a metaphor for, like, eternal failure. Like, is that a failure of a book, then? Is Moby Dick a failure of art? If so, why do they teach it everywhere?
Well,
like, by your definition, but by your definition, like, it's a failure.
Okay,
I think that there are degrees of failure.
Okay, so it's just a giant gray area in which you are still wrong.
He was still trying to convey a message.
Joe has a saying that he's said on the show many times. The biggest problem is when you don't feel anything.
But that doesn't matter.
Because, the thing
it's a failure to you, but that doesn't make it a failure as a piece of art.
I'm not saying it's a failure of a piece of art. What I'm saying is that you don't have to feel something.
You painted yourself into a corner. This is not an argument you can win because it's not. It's about individualism. Art is about the individual. And, like, I know this because I've had this fucking argument with Brant before. And, of course, Brant, although much more calmly, said pretty much the same thing Chard does. It's like, whether or not I get it doesn't mean piss. It's about It's about connecting with somebody. It's about... And yes, there's a lot of bullshit in the art world, just like there's a lot of bullshit in film, and there's a lot of people walking around going, "Oh, well, you didn't like it because you just don't fucking get it." But the thing is that it's subjective.
Yes.
It's not
100%.
a thing where we could all look at the same painting and all feel different things. And Chard might feel nothing, where I feel fucking whatever. The thing is that it's not something that can be rated in success and failure. It is a thing that is, or it is a thing that is not.
It either exists in the world or it does not. And that's it. That's all you can say factually about art. Okay, either is real or it is not.
But the person who has no reaction is allowed to feel that it failed for them.
I absolutely agree. And that's why I'm not surprised when people don't like surreal works, because I'm like, look, it's not for you. That's fine. Like there's plenty of stuff out there that people love that it makes me feel nothing. Apathy, it makes me feel angry, and it doesn't matter. Like,
so if Tobias says that it's not good because it didn't make him feel anything, there's nothing inherently wrong with him saying that.
No,
the point I'm not saying
argued was not that. It was there was some kind of like point at which if you reached the certain amount of people with the message you were trying to convey with your art, that it was successful. But it's a subjective marker.
Let me put it to you this way, and then I think that we should move on, because we could just go around in circles with this all night.
No, let's do this all night. Let's just yell at each other.
I feel like there is a path that arguments about art and artistic intent often go down.
Yeah.
And at the end of that path is solipsism, where the only thing that you can say is, I am me, and I experience this thing. And you can't say anything else, because you can't know anything else for certain. And I feel like you have to stop at a certain point along that path and go, certain things mean certain things. When I see a picture of a basketball, that means a basketball, not just whatever I decide basketballs represent.
And I get that in your worldview, like, you have a correct way of thinking about that, but that's not the only way the world works.
And I'm not saying that this is an absolute. There's a point on that path, and where that point is for you and where that point is for me may be different. But I think at the end of the day, things have to mean things.
They do mean things. Everything means something.
Well, something has to mean something for you in order for you to find it important.
My point is that, like, this means something to somebody. In which case it is art. In which case it is successful.
Sure.
And you want to talk about other measurements of success, which are monetary success, critical success. They're just different measurements of different markers of the work, because obviously monetary success means it appealed to a lot of people. Critical success meant, like, people who are known for analyzing things all found it to be a certain level of appealing. But, like, measurements of success with art inherently at the end of the day are meaningless. They are.
I don't know that I agree with that, but I think that we should move on.
I think that works like this exemplify that idea, because here there are 5 of us in this room who have all read this and gone, meh, it's a thing I read. But that says literally nothing about the work.
I liked it already. I didn't.
Well, if a work doesn't make you feel anything, then it's, I don't know.
Well, I would like to hear from Kaylee, because she has not said anything yet.
I have not.
And I know she has notes because I'm sitting next to her.
Yep, I have lots of notes.
Well, she has fucking notes on everything.
Shut up, rude.
Wow, rude.
I like how I used to bring notes and you guys all gave me shit about it.
We give shit all the time.
Yeah, we give Kaylee shit literally every episode.
Yeah, that's why everybody knows I have a Lisa Frank notebook. It's because they give me shit. So, in this aspect, I feel like the comic failed its goal of storytelling within a surreal structure, because a lot of the characters didn't follow conventions that the author had set up for those characters. They did things that were out of character. There were moments where the plot stopped and then restarted in a way that didn't make sense. Even if you're to take, like, the surrealist leap, right? Like there was no thread connecting these things, and that was my biggest problem with this. Also, I gave this book a very, very fair shot until about halfway through the first trade when a hummingbird ate a fly. And that was the point where I was like, that doesn't happen. That's not real. And then after that, I kind of was skeptical. I don't know. That was my one thing that really bothered me about this book. I was like, hummingbirds don't eat flies. But I don't know. I have a lot of issues with this book. I'm trying to gather.
But there were only 4 issues.
Well, I have many, so take that. Ultimately, I feel like the way that the narration was set up wasn't clear because he would constantly jump from the passive third-person observer to passive third-person participant.
Yeah.
And I felt like that really jumbled up the storyline in a way that was not conducive to what the author was trying to do. And that was, I think, a source of a lot of confusion overall.
I think that's exactly what the author was trying to do.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was trying to keep people off balance.
Yeah,
there's a difference. I think he
was.
confused people because of poor
No,
storytelling
it's
choices.
actually very common in
Yeah.
surreal comics, and specifically that usage of narration where it is someone from panels previous or pages later is the narration, and it's unclear of who's narrating what. So sometimes you're getting narration boxes from stuff that is yet to happen because you can tell from the tense change. And that narration technique is used in a lot of surreal comics, specifically in Black Hole is where I noticed it a lot. Where the text boxes, the text dialogue balloons are abruptly in opposition to they're in opposition to the inner monologue boxes because they're meant to be confusing.
Yeah.
There's no way you would do that on accident. And I've read his other works, and he doesn't do that in anything else.
I'm not saying that you...
I don't know. To me, it just seemed like it seemed sloppy.
It is
more than intentional.
It's confusing, and I don't disagree with that.
No, yeah, it is confusing.
It's absolutely confusing. Like, the text boxes are so out of character with what's going on in some of the scenes that it is so clear that they do not belong there.
Well,
and to be that obviously out of context is difficult.
But my problem is that they aren't obviously out of context. They are obviously within context
But they
of the
confused
story.
you, though.
No, but they're within context of the story.
Well, yeah, because they are happening in the story.
And you can follow them, and you can follow the text boxes in a way that is threaded. I don't want to say logical because I feel like that doesn't really apply, but threaded I feel works because they follow the same vein of thought. However, I feel like they were delivered in a way that does not jive with his original intention. Whether or not that was to keep you off kilter, whether or not that was to be confusing, whether or not that was to take narration from characters in the future, characters of the past, people who weren't characters, author view, there was no thread. And that, to me, was really off kilter, or not off kilter, but off-putting.
Yeah.
Because he uses these text boxes, he uses the same size and shape for lyrics, inner thought, and narration.
And they're all the same color.
And they're all the same color.
Yeah.
And they're all placed in the same sort of manner. And, like, I would be willing to accept that. But the way that they were written, I felt was sloppy.
I think the idea behind, well, what I've come to understand about surrealism is that it's done in a specific way. And this is why it doesn't work for everybody. Because if you're first... It depends on how you interact with things. Like, surrealism is something that, at least in my experience, it's like, it's kind of pushing you over, and then in trying to right yourself, you're like overcorrecting, and it's pushing you the other way, and it's trying to get at a part of you that you don't normally expose to a movie or whatever, right? Because you're used to kind of more linear narratives, or used to more logical narratives. And so it evokes a certain response, and if your reaction to that response is just be like, well, fuck, I can't deal with this, and that's a perfectly. I'm not
super valid.
Yeah, I'm not like faulting anybody for having that response, because it's fucking like the reason I kind of get in a obsessed with this because we did it with The Wait too. Is I had a teacher that I really respect when I first went back to college, and he was always I would write a paper and he'd be like, you need to look deeper, you need to look deeper, you need to look deeper. And like, so now I'm obsessed. Now I just want to pull away fucking everything and I want to understand it. And what I've realized through doing that a lot is sometimes the only understanding you find is your own. Sometimes you have to make peace with the work, you know? And I think
absolutely.
that what surrealism is doing is trying to get you to kind of like come to your own understanding and find be comfortable in that work. And like some people just don't fucking care enough, and that's totally valid because even shit.
This is less about the book and more about storytelling in general, but I think it qualifies when talking about this work. When you, and I want to finish this thought before we discuss it, but when you go to experience a work, when you watch a film, when you read a novel or a comic, it's about relinquishing control. That's how narrative works. To experience the pacing and the flow of a work, oftentimes you have to give up so much control. It's about letting someone else lead you. Surreal work is basically like letting a crazy person lead you around. And there's only so much control some people are willing to relinquish. At some point, you're going to go, no, fuck you. You are doing too much, and I'm not being rewarded for this. And that's why when people don't like surreal works, I'm not surprised, because to really get full enjoyment out of something, sometimes you have to relinquish so much control that you're willing to, it feels like, make excuses for what's happening in the story. Like, wow, it is a completely different timeline. There are so many new characters. Like, all of this stuff is happening, and then we never went back to that. Why was that in there? Was that a mistake? Was that editorial? Like, what happened in those moments, in those scenes? And, Joe has said it's about what you're willing to give up. With surrealist work, you have to give everything up to let them tell you the story. And then at the end of it, you just have to choose whether or not you got anything out of the ride. And I think that's why it's so difficult. Yeah. And I think that's why surreal storytelling in different mediums is so hard, because there is such a specific formula for how you make sequential art now that we've determined this is how it's done. In fact, people have written books on this is how it's done. Then when people break down that into a surrealist storytelling style, like the Frank book, like
Tale of Sand.
Yeah, and the one I'm thinking of is the Mazzucchelli book. Asteria's Polyp. When people break the rules of the format, it's off-putting. But they're doing it because it is saying new things about the way the medium works.
There's and I've talked about this before. There's a film that was done by Luis Buñuel, and he made it with Salvador Dali, and it's called Un Chien Andalou. And there's a very infamous scene in the beginning of this movie called The Cutting of the Eye. I won't get into it, but
it's probably what it sounds like.
It is. It's a cow's eye, but like it's very shocking and jarring, and like the way it's set up is it's incredibly shocking. You don't see that, not even now. It's like a 15-minute film, and it's just fucking crazy. It is weird, and like you could sit there and try and analyze it, and I'm sure people fucking do. I'm sure people do scene studies of it. But Buñuel and Dali came out and pretty much said, we were trying to make a movie that had no narrative. It had no linear element. It was completely surreal. It was completely based outside of any kind of understanding. We just made images. But your mind, the human mind, this is why is set up to like, you see images together, you want to connect them.
Well,
that's what montage comes from.
And the way we perceive time, the way we perceive a series of events leads into that. The way that film is physically put together.
Right, exactly.
This thing happens, and then this thing happens, immediately leads you to believe that narrative occurs in the same way.
Yeah.
And breaking the rules of film construction on a physical level, but also just as far as how you perceive it, is hard.
Yeah.
But at the end, it just looks like nonsense.
And sometimes, and that's the thing, is that sometimes
And
you're
is
going to
it?
get fucking
I mean, like-
nonsense. Sometimes there is no great...
No. I think that's perfect. It's really hard, and at the end, it's just nonsense.
Comedy Bang Bang. Comedy Bang Bang is a show that Joe absolutely
I
loves.
fucking love Comedy Bang Bang.
I'm sure you've showed that to probably 50 people that went, what is this?
Some people
Stop
don't
showing
get
this
it.
to me. Because it's very much the idea of like comedy for comedians.
Yeah,
because it's
is.
about
It
breaking the rules of comedy. And when you watch it, it just looks like nonsense.
Yeah,
it's difficult. Like, not everyone could make Comedy Bang Bang.
And that's...
And and at the end of the day, you either enjoy it or you don't, and it's not a judgment call on you whether or not you enjoyed it. It's just like,
Yeah.
did you get what you wanted out of it? No, okay, great.
Because
There's millions of other
just
shows
as
you
many
could watch.
times as not, it's unsuccessful. Like,
I mean, and
sometimes all you get, I think nonsense is good. That's it. There is no understanding. There is no great fucking message about the fleeting nature of life or the fragility of man. It's just fucking shit that somebody put up on there.
And as far as entertainment value, which is like, that's why we go to comics, is to be entertained. Like, was this book entertaining?
And that's what I liked.
That's the question. I mean, really. Like,
I guess my problem is that, like, I can watch a surreal film, and I like to think that I'm an artistic enough person. Maybe I'm not, but whatever. But this story just bothered me because I felt like there was a story, like, that should have progressed in a linear way, and it didn't.
I think the illusion of that is so important to this story, though, because there's the illusion of a story being written by characters writing within a story. Like, this is a story about characters writing a story.
Yeah, and I wanted
and yet
it.
there isn't a story.
Yeah. Like
There's
I
no
think,
progression.
I think that Joe and Chard are right insofar as you cannot take it as a slight against yourself to go like, I feel like I'm an artistic person, but I didn't get this. Like, that's not.
Kaylee,
No,
I'm
but
not.
I'm like, what I'm saying is, like, I'm
you
not
can't feel obligated to go,
emotionally
I need to
inept.
understand this.
Yeah, no, I'm
But,
not saying you aren't.
like-
I'm saying, like, there's so much that I didn't get out of this. But yet, like, all I realized was, okay, events in this book are not necessarily taking place in a linear order. That person that looks like a person is drawn like a person, has dialogue like a person, and inner monologue like a person, might not be a person. Like, at the end of the day, so this book throws out so many of the modern ideas of, like, you put a character on, quote-unquote, on screen, in panel, in front of me, and expect me to start to care about them, only to tell me that they aren't real. Halfway through the book, like, my emotional spectrum can only take so much of that
Yeah,
before
at
I'm
that
like,
point you're just like,
okay, well then what the fuck is real?
Yeah.
Put the book down. Which is why I'm glad it's only 4 issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if this had been 10 issues of that, by the
Oh,
end I'd be like,
God,
fuck
no.
you, stop putting this, nothing is real. Everything is fleeting. We all die soon. I get it. Go away. Like, there's only so much you can take of that. And I'm right there with you, Kaylee, on a lot of this is like, some of the emotional spectrum of some of these characters is so inconsistent, and so the main character, the rapper, the quote-unquote main
W2.
character, W2, is the least appealing part of this whole book, and yet he somehow survives all of it, and I'm like, oh my good lord, why are you in so much of this?
And the weird thing is that I don't know how I feel about the story. The thing I really liked about this book is what it represents. The fact that somebody was ballsy enough to do it and use comics and use, like, sequential graphic art to do that. Like, I think that's
Also,
cool because it shows how far you can push out. Because it's not the Invisibles. It's not some great fucking manifesto about one man's insane
Need to
insanity.
write a book.
But, like, the fact that he could do this and it was published by a major publisher.
Well, it's also-
and people read it. That is fucking awesome to me.
Essentially a foreign film in comic book
like,
form, too, because
I don't get what's amazing about that. I'm sorry.
Well,
because
it's like,
you know why? Because when I was growing up, there were superheroes, and if you didn't like superheroes, there were some more superheroes over there, and then that was
Yeah.
it. The thought of this book when I was 16 would have been so fucking alien to me that if you could show it to my 16-year-old self, his head would explode. Don't fucking try and do that because you're not going to get rid of me that easily.
No.
It's just like, it's the same thing with video games, with the indie market, with the fact that, like, I don't particularly love the Stanley Parable, but I'm so happy that it exists, because when I was a kid, there was fucking nothing like it.
Though. It's so good.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad it exists, is because someone else enjoys it. Like,
What's the other one where you start off in a blank room and you're just doing weird...
Are you talking about Antechamber?
Yes!
Yeah.
Like, Just the idea of that game. If you had fucking pitched that in 1985, they would have laughed at you and fucking sent you out of the room.
There's no way that would have existed in any time but right now.
The fact that people are pushing...
from a technical perspective, certainly.
No, but in an artistic environment, like there was no environment to release stuff like that before. Like, who's going to fund that game?
Yeah, well, yeah, from a technical perspective, from a fiscal perspective, certainly, but from an artistic perspective, I think you absolutely could have done that game.
Right, but who would have
previously.
seen it?
Well, goodness knows what the Atari version of Antichamber would actually have been like.
Right, and that's the thing. Is, like,
God.
I guess, to me, it's cool that, and like what Joe said, is not only does this comic exist, because, like, had we dug this up from a zine from 1964 or whatever and been like, wow, that was trippy, is a very different thing than Image Comics, the third largest comic book publisher in the country, publishing and flagshipping this book going, we feel like this is valid. Because remember, Image is not a company in which you pitch an idea to and they help you find an artist. Like, they brought this to them completed, and Image was like, yeah, please put this out. We will advertise this. There were ads for change for months. Like, this is, I think that's a big deal.
I just think when you look at like stuff that Art Spiegelman was doing in the 80s as he was writing Mouse, and he was, I cannot remember the name of the goddamn magazine right now, but like it was very experimental stuff. It was very not any, like, this was not a lot. This was not what was getting passed around in lunchrooms, you know? And it's just, it thrills me that somebody was ballsy enough to do this and take it and go, I want to tell this story. I want to tell it as a comic book. I want to take it to Image and not like kitchen sink or slave labor. You know, one of the small, like, I want to take this to Image. I want to bring this to people. I just think I think that says so many cool things about the state of the industry and the state of like where we're going. And it fucking thrills me to death, the fact that it happened, that it was a thing, because it means that somebody's going to read this and maybe say, God, that was cool. But you know, like, it's going to inspire somebody, and they're going to go out because of this, and they're going to tell their fucking story.
Well,
and maybe it'll be fucking amazing.
We've got so many surreal comics that are coming out right now. And I think the auteur is, sure. I mean, it's even more linear than this, but you have stuff like Translucid that came out, and you're like, well, what happened in that story? Who knows? I love it, but who the fuck knows? Like, really, everything I thought I knew about that book in the last couple issues, I was like, well, I guess that's not true.
Well, I mean, if you want to look for surrealism in comics, just look at the last 30 years of fucking X-Men continuity. That's all you fucking need right there.
But I mean, it's definitely built on the backs of comic book creators that came before. And for the reason, looping back full circle to the argument about art, which is how successful does a work need to be considered successful, blah, blah, blah. Like, if it's a room full of 100 people and one person finds it successful, is the work a success? If that one person goes on to make more art that continues to be a success to more and more people, like, that's why I always will disagree with you that a work is always successful, because the vibrations of that one work's drop in the ocean, like, you don't know the ramifications.
Dude,
you can't know, so it's always valid to make something.
The Sex Pistols did a concert, and I cannot remember where it was. It was a small concert, and everybody in the fucking audience was so blown away that they started their own bands. And these aren't fucking like little garage bands. The Buzzcocks were there. The fucking Joy Division was there. The Happy Mondays were there. This fucking one concert started Britpop.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, I think the Sex Pistols, they sound like fucking a garage band, you know?
Right.
They were a boy band. But still, that one show changed music.
And flip side of that, whenever anyone tells me that they have an idea to make something, is why I always respond with
Make it. Yeah.
Because you don't know. Like, you could start Britpop. I mean, you couldn't, because Britpop's already started.
It's already
but you
happened.
could start the next thing,
But you
right?
could write the graphic novel about wizards that use music for power. And
like, essentially, you would not
be
have
Kieran Gillen.
You wouldn't have Phonograph without that one concert. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, had you been at that show, you could have gone, wow, this does nothing for me. Flash forward 30 years, like, you get Phonograph, which does something for you. Like, art is linear in a way that time is also
really
linear.
weird, yeah.
And
it's
I think
really,
that's,
really weird.
I mean, man, the universe is all made up of vibrations and stuff, and
Okay,
like when you
just-
die,
I'll
you
go
don't
do
know,
that.
you don't know who's gonna feel those vibrations, man. Like that's what talking about art always makes me feel like at the end, which is just like you don't know, man. It could be it could do anything, and it's like I sound like a fucking asshat, but like you don't know, like you don't. And so, while I didn't particularly love this book, there are little moments in it that I probably will remember in the future, and I think will be great. But I'm sure somewhere out there, somebody read this comic and went, "Wow, Biff Pow, comics aren't just for kids anymore." And
That
we
was
got
beautiful.
an
That was
article
a
just for
beautiful
Toby.
wrap-up.
I got to give you credit for that one.
That was a beautiful wrap up.
That's,
And
yeah.
Also, how many
Yeah.
comic books do you know where an elder god farts?
Yeah, that
it
was
not only
most of
it
them.
like farted out a person.
Yeah.
A person flew out of that.
yeah, and I was trying to say this earlier, but it's not a binary yes or no. This was successful. This wasn't
Yeah.
successful. Like there's greater success and there's lesser success. And
And
we look at the
Yeah.
great works of our time and we say these were very successful because
Yeah.
they moved thousands, millions,
Right.
billions of people.
Right.
Whereas maybe this piece of art moved one person.
But then again, flashback to like 399 BC when they or 370.
Oh, sure. I mean, William
BC
Shakespeare.
when they canonized the Bible. You could have read that and been like, "Well, I don't know, guys. Maybe a
His-
couple more
his-
rewrites." And yet it moved millions.
If you
so-
look at William Shakespeare, like he was writing dick and fart jokes.
yeah,
He was the Kevin Smith or Michael Bay of his time, and people did
Oh,
not
I think
respect him
Michael
for
Bay's
hundreds
too
of
much
years
credit.
Yeah.
after he died. It
Yeah.
was only during, I think it was the Romantic period or the Classical Revival, some such thing, like the
Yeah.
19th century was when people dug up William Shakespeare and went, "Oh my God, this guy is amazing."
right.
Well, Van Gogh.
Van Gogh. I was just gonna say, yeah,
Fucking nobody gave a shit about
Yeah,
Van Gogh.
he
died
so-
yeah.
poor and alone, and
Maybe in 500 years, people will be digging this book up and going, "Oh my God, this is the most amazingly groundbreaking thing."
actually, there's a really similar thing. It just reminded me of this. The argument question of the week: fan art.
Yeah,
Is it art?
yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
at the time you have Renaissance artists painting
Aran.
religious fan art on the walls of cathedrals and stuff because the people with money, that's what they wanted to see, right? So like it was all
art of
it was all
God.
commissioned fan art of God.
I drew
And
God as Wolverine.
it was all religious fan art. I mean, it's not
No,
like they
I-
were fucking there at the
I
birth of the
agree
universe
with
when
you.
he's reaching down to Adam.
I agree with you
know.
completely. I just
and
think
so
that's hilarious.
thousands of years later, we're like, oh my god, look at the technique and whatever. And like these artists could have painted anything, but people paid them to paint fan art of God, and so that's why we had the Renaissance era art. We're in that art movement right now, and critical art scholars are going, fuck fan art, that shit's stupid, look at that other fan art of God. And it's like, this is why this is why the academic environment like drives me crazy, is because of stuff like that. And that's what it feels like to me when we talk about comics sometimes. It's like, is it or is it not good? And it's like, it's
Well, it's
dude, it's
I
so
feel
hard to
fan art is
determine.
totally art, especially when you look at, I don't remember his name, but the new artist on Rat Queens.
Yeah, I
Who
love it.
started
on.
drawing fan art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam Warren
Yep,
drew pinup fan art for you.
my
I
boy.
mean, like, you know, I just say it's something to think about. Question of the week. Tweet it at. No one tweets the questions of the weeks at us, by the way. And I'm really disappointed. I wanted this to
One
catch
day,
on.
one day.
We
but-
got to remind people.
Yeah, but anyway, it's an interesting thought about art.
Indeed.
And so, like Toby said about Shakespeare, who knows? Maybe in
Yeah.
200 years, someone will dig this book up and be like, by God.
My God, it's the secret to everything.
But anyway, let's move on to the recommendations.
Rules
Also,
and
thank you,
resolutions.
Brian, for the
yeah,
recommendation.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I very
certainly
much
this
enjoyed reading and discussing the book.
This has been a very divisive book, I guess.
As
but
surreal works
I feel like
usually
we've
are.
had a very good conversation here.
Yeah, I think we normally do about stuff.
Stuff and junk.
Junk.
Stuff and junk and things.
When we all like the book, it's a very different conversation.
Well, it's like,
Sometimes-
I liked it. I liked it too.
Sometimes-
I liked it too.
It's pretty boring.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
that's why.
Sometimes they're not the best
That's
episodes.
my recommendation. I'm gonna pitch.
Okay, recommendations.
Okay.
Joe, what do you want to? Do you not know? Do you want to?
I do know. No, I know.
remember
I
you
know.
picked.
I was going back and forth, but I think I'm gonna embrace it, and I'm gonna pitch something really weird and old, but Ghost Rider 2099, which was
Holy crap.
Chris Bocciolo.
Starring Nicolas Cage.
It's basically so in the 90s, Marvel had a whole line of 2099 characters: Spider-Man,
Doctor Doom, Punisher.
X-Men, Punisher, which I did not read. There was Hulk 2099, which lasted for about 5 minutes, and Ghost Rider.
It was a 6-issue mini, wasn't it?
Was it a 6-issue mini? Maybe that's why it went
like
away.
a mini, because some of them weren't full series. Like Doom and Punisher had like much longer run, and Spider-Man had like really long runs, but some of the stuff was short.
I don't think it was intentionally short. I think they canceled.
Yeah, they canceled a lot of it.
Like Ravage 2099 did not go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Although they should totally bring Ravage back.
I wasn't reading comics in 99.
Yeah, no, it's fair. So, Ghost Rider 2099 was kind of a cyberpunk futuristic story. And
Ghost in the Machine, if you will.
Yeah, this kid basically gets...
Well, he dies.
And Ghost Rider kind of imprints a virus on him, and it becomes...
all the Ghost Riders die to become Ghost Rider?
Yeah. Well, they die.
But like he's like a net runner in cyberspace, and he dies while his spirit is in cyberspace.
Which
and
happens in a Constantine story.
Inside a robot skeleton that is the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And it's cool, and the art is incredible, and I'm pretty sure the colors were digital, because I think Marvel had switched over most of its bigger books.
You know, I only read the first issue of this when it came out, so my memory of this is incredible.
What year did this come out?
Oh, God.
It would have been 93.
Was it that? Yeah.
Oh, then definitely this was digital colors.
Yeah. So I just remember it being a lot of fun, and a kind of a cool take on the character.
Yeah.
So I thought we could read it and discuss it.
I really liked the X-Men 2099. I have
X-Men 2099 was going to be the other thing I was going to
X-Men was among the better ones.
Yeah, X-Men was really was cool.
Question.
I have all the chase cards from the X-Men, the Marvel Masterpiece Series 2, which were all the... Yeah.
If they do Ghost Rider 2099 as a Netflix show, do you think that Nicolas Cage should voice the Spirit of Vengeance Ghost Rider?
No.
Yes.
I kind of think that would be awesome, though. I think you're severely overlooking.
Yes.
My true God.
No, it should be Tom Hardy.
No. I mean, we can't have...
and he should talk like this.
The only person who should really play a robot really is either the voice of Optimus Prime or Orson...
Peter Cullen.
Orson Welles' Unicron, but he's dead, so...
Yeah, he's dead.
What about Frank Welker?
Frank Welker can do a really good Orson Welles.
Who did Welker play?
Oh, no, wait.
He played Megatron.
You got to get... you have to get...
He was also Fred on Scooby-Doo.
You have to get Maurice LaMarche to do Orson Welles to do doing Omnicron.
Which is
Unicron.
I was watching the behind the scenes of that movie, and apparently, because he died like weeks later after he recorded that.
He didn't even finish it. They had Leonard Nimoy do an impersonation of Orson Welles to like finish a couple of lines.
Well, yeah, and also it was so like he was breathing so heavy, and they had to cut that so heavily, and then they ran it through. I think it was an ARP synthesizer to get the like low tones in his voice because his voice was so weak and was kind of. I mean, the voice sounds awesome, so they did what they could, but that's it's kind of a sad story.
Yeah.
That happens.
He was such a prolific voice actor.
In whatever afterlife exists, he knows that he inspired a generation.
Oh God,
I think the minute he was on Animaniacs,
No. Just Transformers the movie. Nothing else before that. That was all garbage.
Not War of the
No.
Not The Third Man or F for Fake or any of that.
Never heard of those.
Or, a little movie called Citizen Kane.
No,
largely
just the cartoon he did for children.
Just the crappy Transformers movie.
I will give him credit for North by Northwest.
Hey, lots of
I'm going to
kids...
fucking do you that.
Lots of kids knew Leonard Nimoy as the Bilbo Baggins singer and not the Star Trek actor.
They should have known him as Galvatron.
They should have known him as Leonard Nimoy.
The voice of Galvatron.
God damn it! Somebody recommend something.
It's your turn.
You're done.
I'm
He's
done.
done.
I'm
Kate,
done.
what would you like to?
Oh,
Yes,
Jesus
I'm-
H.
So
Christ.
apparently I have to physically say, Joe, stop talking and let someone else
Oh,
talk.
I talked the least in that little fucking exchange that just happened.
No, Joe, stop talking. Kate, what would you like to recommend?
Well, I was gonna pick all new Ghost Rider, but no, somebody had to pick Ghost Rider.
What? We could have a Ghost Rider week. I'm bringing Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider off.
I'm not bringing
No,
Ghost Rider.
I'll
by
save
the way.
it till I actually read it.
Oh.
So-
Thanks, Kate.
Well, no, because I really want to read it, and usually the way to get me to read a book is for us to pick it.
You absolutely should read it. It's awesome. Felipe Smith writes a good story on that one.
But no, I'm gonna recommend Thor: Goddess of Thunder because I feel like it's doing.
I think it's this week. I think we find out who she is this week.
Is
Do
it
we?
out in trade yet? I thought it was not.
No, issue 8 is going to be the reveal,
Is it
which
this
I think
week?
comes out the first week of May, which will be...
Okay, yeah, the week that this releases.
The first trade is not out, but they did say it's going to be issues 1 through 5, which
Right.
are very easy to track down
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, I feel that it's doing some important things right now. Say what you want about them doing it the wrong way, but I think it's important, and I have a feeling that maybe they're doing it, or that they started it to set up Chris Hemsworth leaving, which is one of the rumors, and so they want to put a female in his place.
I feel like they were playing this well before any of that.
I think that is a added side effect of creating legacy characters, is in your cinematic universe, when actors want to leave, you're like, no worries.
Yep.
There have been 4 flashes since
Chris,
you were the
Chris
Flash.
Evans went into the Avengers and Captain America with Disney knowing full well that he was going to be, when his contract expired, he was not coming back.
And also, I mean, he's a perfect example because there have been 2 Captain Americas since Steve Rogers left the role. So, I mean, I think legacy characters are important. I think Cade brings up a great new legacy character.
Yeah,
Thor: Goddess of
absolutely.
Thunder. So,
And it would be a good
because
continuation.
if they put her in the MCU as a female character, that's going to be a big fucking deal.
oh yeah.
God, yeah.
I mean,
but it would be
that'll
a good,
sweet too.
good continuation of our discussion of Thor: God of Thunder.
Yeah. We did the first 2 trades of that.
Yeah, we did the whole God Bomb saga.
Yeah, there's one more trade
God
that's
Butcher.
kind of essential reading before Goddess of Thunder, but yeah,
Right.
it's a good, the
I'd
volume
like
4.
to read
Yeah.
Thor Executive Management of Thunder.
Those are
Well-
his early years before he was promoted to God.
This kind of dates
and
the
that's
episode,
a new
but in a
Project
few
X
weeks,
Challengers, but
in a few weeks, we're going to get Secret Wars, including Thor's, the
Yeah.
all Thor cop drama.
Yeah, which is not quite
Wait.
as cool as
Thorcore.
Thorcore from the 90s.
Oh God, nothing
Tobias,
else.
is this a real thing, or
Oh,
are you
yes.
getting my hopes up?
No, this is a real
This
thing.
is a real
Bad Thors, bad
Secret
Thors.
Wars.
During
What you
Secret
gonna
Wars,
do?
there is an entire
Light
police
me.
force made up of Thors.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This sounds awesome.
Well, there's certainly enough of them floating around.
Yeah.
Because there was a point in the Marvel Universe where Odin was just like, "You're pretty cool. You're worthy. Your hair is great. You're worthy.
You get a
You're
Mjolnir.
worthy."
You get a Mjolnir. Everyone gets Mjolnir.
Thor, as played by Oprah Winfrey.
Really-
Odin
Make it
Winfrey,
happen.
yeah.
Or excuse me, Odin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Odin Winfrey.
Sorry. Odin Winfrey.
welcome
Start
to
the fan art.
welcome to Odin Winfrey's
Next
comic
week,
book of the Fortnite
View
Club.
Bring
Next
it
week,
back.
View from the Gutters is Odin Winfrey.
Somebody,
That
please actually draw Odin Winfrey and send that to us.
would be
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
amazing. Yes,
Fan artists start
we
your
will
engines.
get you some kind of prize.
Oh,
somehow.
yeah. We'll
We'll make
figure
it happen.
we
I
got
will
stuff.
come to your house and hug you.
I got Batman stuff laying around to give away. I got comic books. I got all kinds of good stuff. So send us some stuff. We'll figure it out. Kaylee, though, what would you recommend this week?
I am pitching Paranatural by Zach Morrison. It's a webcomic. It's about this, like, 12-year-old kid. He's, like, in his angsty preteen years where he's like, oh, I'm too cool for this. And his super dork dad, who I love, they move to a new town. And he joins this school and gets pulled into what's called the Paranatural Club, which is like a mix of paranormal and supernatural. And they didn't want to call it either of those because that was too obvious. So they're like,
This
Paranatural.
science the physics of being psychic.
Yep. And he can see ghosts and spirits.
From an episode
and
of Psych.
Oh, right. I know, totally. Okay.
he can see ghosts, he can see spirits. He's got like cool spirit tools and stuff that he uses. It's just a lot of fun to read.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to the front half of this pitch. Is this Yu Yu Hakusho Spirit Detective?
You were listening. No. You just wanted to make a Yu Yu Hakusho joke.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
What
fucking universe?
What the fuck do you want from me?
I forgot to listen. Let's make a funny joke. All of the universes. I always do that. No, so what was this called? This was
Paranatural.
Is it manga influenced? I mean, it sounds. Or is it more like Western Constantine-y stuff? It's
more manga. Then it's a lot of fun, and it's just
so not Constantine.
Yeah, not Constantine.
No, yeah,
but
it is cute.
It's very cute.
When people say paranormal, there's like a couple different roads that can go down. I know you're a fan of stuff like Constantine and Supernatural, so I just
this is like just a super adorable dad. It's a thing.
That's a word.
It is all right.
And his son, and I just love all the characters and things that they do, and they'll have like these big dramatic looks with each other that are very like heavily manga influenced, and then they'll say something that's like I want pizza, and then like that's the end of the panel, and you have to wait till next week for the next page, and it's just fun. So
side note, have you watched Steven Universe yet?
No, I want to.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
I need to.
You say adorkable dads, I like immediately think of Greg Universe. Who got his own #1 comic this week.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah. Spin-off to Steven Universe comics. Anyway, Toby.
So I'm going to pitch a book I pitched, I believe, last year. And I realized that I actually have a remarkable number of comics in my collection that follow a similar theme.
Whoa, it's like you like a like a genre and stick with it.
Yeah, well, this
not
week
weird.
I'm pitching Friends with Boys by Faith Erin Hicks.
Oh, yeah.
And this is published a couple of years ago by First Second Press. And it's about this girl named Maggie. She is a high school freshman. Mm-hmm. She has only ever been homeschooled before. And she is about to start her first day of real high school. She also has 4 older brothers who are all also like in the high school and around the town and stuff. And it's a small town. And the story is about her going to school, and she makes some friends, and they have some adventures. And also she's haunted by a ghost.
I thought we actually read this for the podcast, but I think it's just because after you recommended it, I went home and read it all.
Yeah,
it was originally released as a webcomic,
Yeah.
and I believe has been taken down and is only available in print now.
Oh,
Although I think you
that's
can read
too
the
bad.
beginning of it online yet. I'm not 100% sure.
When I read it, the entirety was online.
She also did The Adventures of Superhero Girl, which we read previously.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot more serious and in-depth than that.
And it's the art, although similar, is not in color, but it looks.
It is not.
It looks. I don't know.
It's a little Brandon Lee O'Malley.
Yeah,
She is also a
mean
Canadian
Brian?
artist.
Brian Lee O'Malley.
Brian Lee O'Malley.
Brandon?
And it goes very nicely in my collection of younger women in small towns fiction, along with Bad Houses and The Plain Janes.
Also, Street Angel, which is like young girls that are haunted by some demons or also supernatural things.
That is also by the same guy who does The Plain Janes, although it's a little bit different because she is a teen ninja skateboarder.
Right.
Teen Ninja.
But I'm just saying, like, there's like some supernatural young girl books, and then there's some like you have like a broad collection.
But this is very much your kind of like coming of age story.
Very cool.
Did we
And
talk
I love
about
the art.
Street Angel before?
It's been recommended twice.
Oh, more than that, 3 or 4 times.
Did we ever do an episode about it?
Ew.
Oh.
I keep pitching it and it keeps not getting picked.
There's new stuff too.
Is
Since
there?
you've pitched it last, I'm pretty sure.
It got reprinted just recently. I don't know if there's new material. I'll have to double check.
I thought they did something new.
Jim Rugg.
I will double check, but I super love Jim Rugg.
Me
so
too,
if there is,
yeah.
I really need to find out about
Yeah,
that.
It's a great rug.
It's a Jim
It is.
Rugg.
It's a
Jim's
Jim
Rugg.
Rugg.
Where'd you get Jim Rugg?
Where'd you get Jim Rugg?
I don't know what's happening anymore.
I don't know.
Cool. That sounds great. I brought an image book,
No.
and I brought a fun all ages book as well. I kind of wanted to bring something shorter because I know we have the long run coming up. And it's also Mignola May over at Out of the Fridge. So I've read like all of Hellboy and now have to read all of BPRD this month.
Oh, that sounds
So
terrible.
I have a lot of reading to do. So I'm recommending a short 5-issue trade called Howtoons Reignition. And this is a really cute book. I love the concept of this book. So the story itself is it's in the future and they're going to try to like restart it's not the sun. They're going to do something to the planet to like restart the atmosphere. And this family of scientists and these like mom and dad and their 2 kids go into like a bunker into like cryo sleep to wait for the atmosphere or whatever. Something goes wrong. Kids get woken up. Their parents are gone. They're out in the world. These kids have to go find them. So that's the plot of the story. But the side aspect of the story that's really cool is it's called Howtoons, and it teaches you how to make fun, cool inventions around your house. So it teaches you to make safety goggles out of like a 2-liter bottle of pop and some rubber bands. It teaches you how to make like a marshmallow shooting gun. Like there's all these cool diagrams, and it tells you how to make it out of stuff from around your house. And there's all like, here's how to use these tools and this kind of stuff. And so it's a really cute, like all ages educational learning book, but the story is also really fun too. And so I think people should check that out. And if you have kids around the house and you want them to read something fun that isn't just superheroes punching each other, they might learn something. Try Howtoons. This is the second volume, but Reignition kind of stands on its own. So
Nice.
That's the one. It's really good. I like it a lot. It's
Very
super
cool.
cute. And it's fun to learn things. How to make flashlights out of paper towel tubes and wires and some D batteries.
Fire.
How to make a flashlight out of D batteries and
a
light
flashlight.
bulb. And a flashlight case.
No, it's a little bit more complicated. There's a safety pin. There's some wire.
Nice.
It's cool. It's
No,
a cool idea.
cool.
That sounds cool.
This is the kind of shit I would have loved as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I loved science stuff. Like
I just had Kool-Aid Man in Radio Shack Adventures.
you had wasn't Mr. Wizard on when you were a kid?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I love Mr. Wizard.
Yeah. Well, I had
And
Bill Nye.
the
Yeah.
science guy.
So
Bill Nye was after my time.
right. He was in my time
Oh my
though.
God, you're
Yeah.
so old.
We had Mr. Wizard.
Yeah. That's
Bill
why
Nye
I
is
was like, you
everybody's
old
fucking-
people had Mr. Wizard, right, Grandpa?
I watched Bill Nye, and I'm older than you.
Yeah, I don't know what you were doing.
Learning.
Yeah. Learning about
Evidently
science.
not.
Wait, wasn't Bill Nye was syndicated on the West Coast first though, right?
Yeah, he's from Seattle.
So it may
Yeah.
have taken a while to get
That
to the
could be.
rural regions of Pennsylvania.
You had to crank the crank to
Hey,
get
when
TV.
I was a kid, we had Service Electric cable TV, and it was like
Wow.
one of the first cable companies in the entire country.
Wow. Tell me more about the Stone Age.
That's
Color me
incredibly
impressed.
interesting in an extraordinarily boring kind of way.
Yep. All right, Joe, what are you voting for?
Paranatural, because I started reading it a while ago, and I should finish it. And I don't have to buy anything, and I can read it on my phone or something. I don't know.
Cade?
I really want to read Ghost Rider because I have it and I've been waiting for an excuse to actually read it.
Sweet.
I think I'm going to go with Howtoons.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for Thor, Goddess of Thunder. Both because I want to read it on the show and to spite Chard by making him choose.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that happens a lot.
I choose Nightcrawler.
Pause really quick. I'm going to look up when issue 8 comes out. So I will be voting for Thor Goddess of Thunder because the episode will come out before issue 8 comes out where it's revealed who she is. Because I want to hear everyone's recommendation, like guesses of who
I
they
know
think
who I think.
Thor.
I mean, it's been broadcast pretty well, unless there's like some huge magical, like out of nowhere, this is who it actually is.
I think it's going to be a switcheroony, and because he crossed off some names off his list that I think he shouldn't have crossed. He shouldn't have did that.
Oh, you think he was making out with his mom?
Yes.
Awesome.
I that was one where he's like, well, I kissed her. I guess it can't be my mom. And I was like, I don't know about that, Thor. She's not your real mom. Also, you're gods. So maybe rethink that.
Those are both true facts.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I want to hear what you guys have to think about it. It's a sweet series. I think we should read everything that's out, which is 7 issues.
Yeah.
I think it's Thor Feminine
Yeah.
Side.
7 and the annual?
Yeah, why not? The annual was pretty fun.
It was super good.
I
And apparently
loved
CM
it.
Punk is going to get more writing from Marvel.
Yeah, he's going to do Drax the Destroyer.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, but Noelle Stevens wrote the Thor Goddess of Thunder story in the annual, and it was awesome. So,
They both wrote. There's 3 stories in the annual.
Yeah.
She wrote one, he wrote one, and somebody else wrote another
well,
one.
only one of them is Thor Goddess of Thunder, though. The
Oh,
other 2
okay,
are Thor
right.
Odin's son, because
That's
the one that
right.
CM Punk wrote is the Thor Odinson drinking contest
Yes.
with the devil,
Yes.
which is fantastic.
Incredible.
It's illustrated by the Rob Gilroy of Chew.
Yes.
And it's great. But yeah, the Noel Stevens one is like, it's all about the Warriors 3, like, testing her and being like, you might have the power of Mjolnir, but are you really Thor? And she's like, all right, well, give me your best shot. What could Thor do? And it's awesome. So
It's a lot of fun.
definitely
And the
read
art
I
is
these.
really
super
hope they
cute.
put it in the second
Oh, yeah.
trade.
Yeah, it's super good. So,
All
yeah,
right.
read the first 7 in the annual for next
Yes.
time. And thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you to everyone who listens to the show and our patrons and our sponsors. And tweet me those questions of the week. It's not going to catch on. I'm disappointed in all
Okay,
of it.
wait,
No, do it.
Hey,
repeat
you gotta
again.
keep
What
doing
was
it.
the question of the week?
Who is Thor, Goddess of Thunder?
No,
No,
that's
it
next
was
week.
it's fan art.
Yeah.
It's fan art.
Continue the discussion on our Facebook page or on our website.
And somebody make us
Or our
Odin
Tumblr page.
Or our Tumblr page that
Yeah.
Kaylee has been running fantastically. View from the Gutters at Tumblr.
Oh, yes. And we
Or
also put out the
.tumblr.com.
call for Odin Winfrey fan art.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
This needs to be a thing.
Yeah. And yeah, so preemptively,
Winfrey.
thank you for that. We'll get you something cool.
Yes.
And
We love you.
bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to View from the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.